Hello again, it's TryHard and I'm finally back at you with some more Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls content. Today's video will be covering a Demon Hunter spec, which revolves around Cluster Arrow and Fire Damage. It's pretty mainstream at the moment, and it's pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. We'll be covering a bit of gearing. We won't go too much into the bulk of that. We're leaving that for a whole separate guide, which will actually be out next week, so keep an eye out for that. And we'll look at a bit of gameplay as well, just to see the spec in action. So yeah, guys, let's get started and have a look. Alright guys, so let's get straight into the spec here. Now this spec is absolutely fantastic. I've been using it for probably a couple weeks. Once I actually got the gear for it, it got really good. We'll talk about a bit of gearing later, but I'm going to leave it to a separate guide, like I said before, which will come out next week sometime. So anyways, let's get started. So the primary skill I'm using right now is Hungering Arrow with Serrated Arrow. You can change this out for Entangling Shot with Justice is Served, if that's what you prefer. They're roughly the same damage on sheet, so like they'll both crit for roughly the same amount, but Hungering Arrow has that chance to pierce through, so I find this really good for when you're on, like Rift Guardians or Champion packs or something. It's just really good for that single target DPS while you're trying to generate hatred. Obviously you wouldn't use it over Cluster Arrow on single target, but it is fantastic for generating, single target hatred. And the bread and butter of the build is Cluster Arrow with Loaded for Bear. The damage is just crazy. I mean, I'm seeing numbers close to 30 million right now as my first hit over 75% damage, which is just great. I've seen people on videos doing, close to like 80 million and things like that, which is just fucking absurd, But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. You can swap it out for other things, but generally Loaded for Bear is what you want. Cluster Bombs is something I see a few people using, but I don't find the damage reliable enough at all on this. It kind of misses targets sometimes, which, yeah, kind of blows. Now, I'd always recommend this. It's a choice between Preparation with Punishment, so you turn your Discipline, 25 Discipline, into 75 Hatred, which is just great. Once your resource cost reduction gets down really low, this becomes just really overpowered, because at the moment, I think mine costs 14, 13 Discipline to cast right now. So, I mean, that's, like a fifth of my bar, a fourth of my bar, which is just fantastic. So you just pretty much have unlimited hatred at certain points with this, which is great. Now, if you don't want to use this, you can always swap it out for Vengeance. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it is a really good DPS cooldown. You can swap it out for Seethe, which gives you 10 hatred per second, or you can also swap it out for Personal Mortar, which just adds a bit of extra fire damage on top of the already good DPS cooldown. Now, Vault, again, you can change what you want. I'm using Tumble at the moment, but I'm farming on Torment too. Since I kill mobs so quickly, I actually prefer the extra bit of mobility. But if you want, you can use Trial of Cinders if you're on higher Torment difficulty, or generally if you're just having problems killing monsters. So while you're kiting, you're getting that extra bit of damage in as well, which is always a bonus. Now, for my defensive, this is completely up to you guys. I use Smokescreen with Lingering Fog. Reason being is I like that extra bit of duration being, immune to certain effects and monsters not targeting me. That's my favorite thing. I just like not being targeted by enemies for as long as possible. I was using Healing Vapors for a while, which is just absolutely great, but I'm finding the extra 0.5 seconds is working out for me a bit better than the extra life. But it's up to you. And also you can swap it out for Shadow Power with whatever you want. Generally, Gloom is always good to get that damage reduction, plus the life per hit. But again, it's completely up to you guys and your play style. Now, I'm using Wolf Companion. Obviously, it just gives you that extra DPS cooldown. So, when you see an elite pack, you pop Wolf Companion and you right-click them, and with the passive of Ambush, your initial hits will pretty much spike that pack down in about 2 hits, which is just great. I wouldn't really recommend swapping it out for another companion. Maybe the Boar if you are having problems with survivability. And on higher Torment levels, I actually do swap it out for the Boar. But I do change my passives around as well. So that's pretty much the main build, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're not using it, I'd recommend trying it out, definitely. I do still enjoy my Elemental Arrow build that I showed before, but this is clearly just the better build. We're just forced to use Cluster Arrow at the moment. It's the truth of the matter. They are changing around some elemental damage next patch, but we don't know too much about that right now, so they might try to bring in Elemental Arrow again if you're a fan of that like me. But at the moment, this is it's just pretty much the best build there is right now, and there's no escaping that truth, I suppose. I tried, but you can only try for so long. All right, let's move on to the passive skills anyways. Now, these are completely interchangeable. You can do whatever you want depending on your gear, what torment level you're doing. But at the moment, I'm doing torment level 2, and this is what I would recommend. Obviously, I'm sitting on about 5.5 million toughness, which is a good amount for torment 1 or 2. You get spiked down once in a while, but it's nothing too serious. So with that kind of toughness in mind, I'd aim for this kind of passive build. I'm using Night Stalker for the discipline restoration. I'm sitting around 57% crit or something. So your discipline noticeably goes up. So I definitely recommend using Night Stalker over Perfectionist if you're going to pick between the two, because I see some people using one or the other. I always use Night Stalker over Perfectionist if you have the option. I'm using Steady Aim for the 20% flat damage increase. This is incredible. You shouldn't really be having problems with monsters being straight on your face, unless there's fast minions, like leapers or something, who are just kind of harassing your face. But most of the time this is up. I'd say overall it's probably like a 15% overall damage increase, after you take away the fact that enemies are going to be in your face once in a while. Probably 16%, but yeah, it's really, really good. Archery, just straight damage increase. I mean, if you're using crossbows, you're getting a 50% crit damage. Hand crossbows, 5% crit chance. So if you have 2 of them on, that's 10%. So that, has really good synergy with Night Stalker. It's just fantastic. I wouldn't really recommend avoiding it. And Ambush, the reason this is so good with Cluster Arrow build is that you pretty much are using one of the bulkiest moves in the game right now to do the most damage in one cast. It just is. It's one of the top end damage moves. Now, when you include 40% damage on that over 75% health, that pretty much means when you shoot a normal white mob or white minion, just trash clear, it one-shots them pretty much guaranteed, because you're hitting them with one of the hardest hitting moves in the game, plus 40% damage. And against elite packs, it's good as well, because if you shoot twice before they're below 75% health, both those shots will get that damage increase. And yeah, they'll be 40% health before you know it. Even with bad gear, it's gonna happen. It's just gonna bulk them down big time. So I'd always recommend using this. Now, if you're having problems with survivability, you can swap out Steady Aim or Archery for Perfectionist. If you're on lower torment levels. If you're on higher torment levels, I'd probably recommend swapping out 3 of them, maybe getting out like Awareness or Brutaling or something like that. I don't really like this skill, but I've seen lots of people using it. I don't stand still for long, but apparently some people do, so it's up to you. And another thing I've been seeing people play, it's completely gear dependent. Crider Shot, the bow, it makes it so your elemental arrow generates hatred instead of using it. So you use elemental arrow instead of hungering arrow, but you put ice arrow on it, or not ice arrow, but I'll show you. Where is it? Elemental arrow with, so if you put on frost arrow, and then you would swap out one of your DPS skills that doesn't give you 20% damage increase. You'd swap it out for Call of the Weak, and then your hatred generator would be slowing them, and then your cluster arrow would be hitting for 20% extra. So I mean, if you wanted to do it for fun, you could swap out Night Stalker for that, and you just do crazy damage. But that's completely gear dependent, so I'm not really going to talk too much about that. But it's cool if you can get a good Crider Shot. It does relate to really, really good damage. So yeah, guys, that is the spec. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and I always try to, get back to you guys. But yeah, guys, that's it. Let's talk a bit about gearing, and we'll have a little gander at the gear. Okay, so at the moment, the Cluster Arrow build is probably one of the strongest because of the amount of fire damage we're getting from gear. Now, I don't know what Blizzard was thinking, but I don't know if they realized that they made a pretty good amount of gear aimed towards fire damage and not towards the other elemental damages. I mean, you get a few poison damage things, maybe a holy damage here or there, but there's no gloves and chests that give you 20% cold damage and, resource cost reduction. There's no lightning damage on, I guess there is a belt actually, but it doesn't relate in terms of fire damage. That's why fire is so powerful for Demon Hunters right now, because there's no real other options other than fire damage for these extra items. Now, the extra items you want to aim for are Mage Fist, Cinder Coat, and then there's Andariel's Visage, which you can get fire damage on as well. Or you can go what I did and get Pride's Fall, which gives you that resource cost reduction after not taking damage for 5 seconds. So this is just fantastic. I mean, 30% is ginormous for Cluster Arrow. I mean, it makes it cost nothing just with that alone. Obviously, it's, situational. Don't take damage for 5 seconds. But, yeah, it's really, really good. Now, I got my Mage Fist and my Cinder Coat both from gambling. That's not a lie. I literally just gambled shards. Cinder Coat probably took me about 3,000, maybe 2,500. And I was pretty lucky in my Mage Fist and actually got them probably with about 500, maybe 750 of them. So those two, everyone's accessible to get them. And one more item I'm going to recommend going for. Mine aren't very good, but Reaper's Wraps make a ridiculous, they just make a ridiculous amount of increase of, efficiency to your gameplay. Mine aren't great. I'd rather have Vitality on them and fire damage obviously a bit higher, but, we can't always have perfect, and my Dex is low. But you can craft these. The pattern, I'm not sure if it has a specific drop, location, but you can get the actual item you need from the last boss in the game right now in Reaper of Souls, and he drops those. They fixed the drop rate. I think I picked up 2 of them in, 3-4 kills. So yeah, about 50% drop chance for me. That was on Torment 2. So definitely gettable for everybody. And then with this build as well, you want to go towards fire damage on every item you can. I have it on my neck, bracers, and then obviously these special items here. And one more item I found really good crafting is Fleeting Strap. Yeah, this is a great item. It gives you attack speed on a belt. Obviously, there's Witching Hour, but not everyone can just get a Witching Hour. So this one you can actually craft, which is really, really nice. Really good, dex, good vite, defensive stats, and it has attack speed. So the damage, equates to having a high sheet number as well as that high elemental damage as well. And the rest of my gear is pretty basic. I'm using a one-handed crossbow just because the fact that I haven't had anything better drop, unfortunately. That's just the sad truth. I haven't had a good two-hander or better one-hander drop to dual-wield with. And you'd probably think, yeah, well, that is a better damage increase if I equip it over my quiver. But, I lose 15% toughness plus that 14% cluster arrow damage. So that's a bit of a sad one, but yeah. So yeah, I'm using Sin Seekers as my quiver, which is actually really good because it's 14% increase on cluster arrow. And the crit chance is bugged. You can't re-roll 10% crit chance, or I can't. It keeps rolling to 1% or 1.5% like it's a level 1 item. So that's a bit of a weird one, but yeah. Fix it, Blizzard. Boots, just pretty generic. You want to aim towards cluster arrow damage if you can, because that's going to be your main ability. Legs, there's some pretty good options for these, but yeah, just depth thickers. Got these from gambling as well. Shoulders, not a huge amount unless you get set shoulders. Most of the shoulders aren't good, but I like these, the Deathwatch Mantle, because it has extra damage on it. So it increases your efficiency while farming. 30% chance when you get attacked to do 200% weapon damage to everything around you, which is just great. Rings, haven't found anything better than this one yet. It's not that great, but yeah. And then the Leoric Signet's kind of beastly with perfect crit chance, almost perfect crit damage, and really, really high damage on it as well. Plus that bonus EXP. But yeah, guys, that's the gear. I'm going to make a separate gearing guide, and we're going to go over each piece and options, specific options for your build. But that's just some general advice there. I'm farming Torment 2 with this much damage. I can farm Torment 3 or 4, but Torment 2, I one-shot everything all the time. No problems. I don't die. So I find that the most efficient for me. If I calculate any deaths in my farming route, then I'm losing efficiency, and it's not worth the extra legendary drop chance, at least not in my opinion. And then 5.5 million toughness is a good point for Torment 2. And Torment, it's pretty good in Torment 3, but you get spiked pretty hard once in a while by certain mobs. So if you're going towards Torment 3 to 5, I'd probably recommend 7 million for a comfortable amount. So yeah, guys, that's it for gearing. Like I said, I'll make a specific guide in the future. Let's have a look at some of the gameplay. Righty-ho, guys, that wraps it up for today's guide. Thank you very, very much for watching. If you do have alternate specs you want to see showcased, please put them in the comment section below so I can have a look, and I'll probably do a video on them. Guides to watch out for over the next few weeks. I'm going to do Demon Hunter gearing guide, possibly the Crusader gearing guide, because I haven't really dabbled with him in a little while. And I'm going to be leveling my monk and gearing him out for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to be doing a couple specs on him as well, because I'm really interested in some of the new variety that the monk class has been introduced to with Reaper of Souls. So yeah, guys, again, thank you. If you did like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave any feedback, good or bad. I'm always open to hear feedback, as long as you're not being a complete dick. But yeah, no. I'm always open to any feedback you guys have, good or bad. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next week. Oh yeah, by the way, Italy was fantastic. Went snowboarding for a week there. That's why I've been gone for so long. And yeah, beautiful place. Awesome slopes, man. Some of the black runs were pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie. At one point, I thought I was gonna die. So I think that's a good sign of a good snowboarding trip. I'm not sure. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.